Hi and welcome to Sea Balance. My name is Eduardo, and today I'll be reading chapters 21 through 30 from the Book of Life. We'll start with chapter 21. It lies in the nature of grand virtue, to follow the way and the way alone. Now, what is the way? It is something elusive and evasive and elusive, and yet it contains within itself a form, elusive and evasive, and yet it contains within itself a substance, shadowy and dim, and yet it contains within itself a core of vitality. The core of vitality is very real. It contains within itself an unfailing sincerity. Throughout the ages, its name has been preserved in order to recall the beginning of all things. How do I know the ways of all things at the beginning? By what is within me. Chapter 22. To yield is to be preserved whole. To be bent is to become straight. To be empty is to be full. To be worn out is to be renewed. To have little is to possess. To have plenty is to be perplexed. Therefore, the sage embraces the one and becomes a model of the world. He does not show himself, therefore he is luminous. He does not justify himself, therefore he becomes prominent. He does not boast of himself, therefore he is given credit. He does not brag, therefore he can endure long. It is precisely because he does not compete that the world cannot compete with him. It is the ancient saying, to yield is to be preserved whole. Is that empty words? Truly, he will be preserved and prominence will come to him. Chapter 23. To rarely speak, such is the way of nature. Fierce winds don't last the whole morning. Torrential rains don't last the whole day. Who makes these things? If even heaven and earth can't make these things last long, how much more is this true for men? Therefore, one who devotes himself to the way is one with the way. He who is identified with the way is also happy to have him. He who is identified with virtue is also happy to have him. And he who is identified with the abandonment of the way is also happy to abandon him. It is only when one does not have enough faith in others that others will not have faith in him. Chapter 24. He who stands on tiptoes is not steady. He who strides cannot maintain the pace. He who makes a show is not enlightened. He who is self-righteous is not respected. He who boasts achieves nothing. He who brags will not endure. According to the Tao, these are extra food and unnecessary luggage. They do not bring happiness. Therefore, the followers of the Tao will avoid them. Chapter 25. Something mysteriously formed, born before heaven and earth, in the silence and the void, standing alone and unchanging, ever present and in motion. Perhaps it is the mother of the 10,000 things. I do not know its name. I call it Tao. For lack of better word, call it great. Being great, it flows. It flows far away. Having gone far, it returns. Therefore, Tao is great. Heaven is great. Earth is great. The king is also great. These are the four great powers of the universe, and the king is one of them. Man follows the earth. Earth follows heaven. Heaven follows the Tao. Tao follows what is natural. Chapter 26. The heavy is the root of the light. The still is the master of unrest. Therefore the sage, traveling all day, does not lose sight of his baggage. Though there are beautiful things to be seen, he remains unattached and calm. Why should the Lord of 10,000 chariots act lightly in public? To be light is to lose one's root. To be restless is to lose one's control. Chapter 27. A good runner leaves no track. A good speech leaves no flaws to attack. A good reckoner makes use of no counter. A well-shut door makes use of no bolts, and yet cannot be opened. A well-tied knot makes use of no rope, and yet cannot be untied. Therefore, the sage is good at helping men, and for that reason there is no useless person. He is good at saving things, for that reason there is nothing rejected. This is called following the light. Therefore, the good man is the teacher of the bad, and the bad is the lesson of the good. He who neither values his teacher nor understands the lesson is one gone far astray, though be it learned. Such is the essential secret. Chapter 28. He who knows the male active force and keeps to the female passive force becomes the ravine of the world. Being the ravine of the world, he will never depart from eternal virtue, but returns to the state of infancy. He who knows glory and yet keeps to humility becomes the model of the world. Being the model for the world, he will never deviate from the eternal virtue, but returns to the state of ultimate of non-being. He who knows glory but keeps to humility becomes the valley of the world. Being the valley of the world, he will be proficient in eternal virtue, and returns to the state of simplicity, such as uncarved wood. When the uncarved wood is broken up, it is turned into concrete things, such as Tao is transformed into the myriad of things. But when the sage uses it, he becomes the leading official. Therefore, the great ruler does not divide and unites. Chapter 29. Do you think you can take over the universe and improve it? I don't believe it can be done. The universe is sacred. You cannot improve it. If you try to change it, you will ruin it. If you try to hold it, you will lose it. So sometimes things are ahead, and sometimes they are behind. Sometimes breathing is hard, sometimes it comes easily. Sometimes there is strength, and at times weakness. Sometimes you're up, and at times you're down. Therefore, the sage avoids extremes and extravagances. Chapter 30. He who assists the ruler with the way does not dominate the world with force. The use of force usually brings requital. Wherever armies are stationed, briars and thorns grow. Great wars are always followed by famines. A good general achieves his purpose and stops, but does not dare to dominate the world. He achieves his purpose, but does not brag about it. He achieves his purpose, but does not boast about it. He achieves his purpose, but is not proud of it. He achieves his purpose, but only as an unavoidable step. He achieves his purpose, but does not aim to dominate. For after things reach their prime, they begin to grow old, which means being contrary to the way. Whatever is contrary to the way will perish soon.